It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. My lucky day. It's my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold.
Morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Internet and YouTube and other such dramatic nonsense. I swear this is turning into like a reality TV show. It's like, will Adrian be able to get real internet from real companies? Anyway, hi, welcome. Today is August 11th, and I want to welcome you to episode 17 of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins. Every night, I and my army of bots scour the internet for news and content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native, and every day, you'll find me here to share the bits that I find interesting. This is a curated list of content. I go through around 200 submissions every night, and I only select a handful of them for the next day's show. If you're watching, now or in the future, please click the thumbs up button on the video so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. I really enjoy putting this show together for you because it helps me end each day with knowledge that I didn't have when the day began. And I'm super grateful that you're here with me so that I can share it with you and we can grow together. But before we get started, I have some questions for you. This is the fourth week of the show, and I want to get your thoughts on how it's going. When I'm selecting content, I was thinking about this last night, particularly when I was sending out the tweets. It started out, and I still say, come sit with me and, we'll talk about what happened the day before in Cloud Native. But I don't really cover any news, because most of the news that I find is promotional drivel for specific solutions. It's like, oh, this is possible on IBM Cloud, or VMware now has something that does some other thing with some other VMware solution. And I want this to reach the widest possible audience. So what I find is that I'm spending time on solutions that are open source or that have a free tier, but I want to make sure that that's of the greatest benefit to you. I mean, we don't just need free solutions. We need solutions that are useful, and paid solutions certainly are also useful. I don't want them to be super, super specific. So let me know, are you happy with the mix of stuff that I'm bringing to you every day? I see some people responding in the chat. If you're in the stream live, let me know. We'll check on the chat in a few minutes. And if you're watching this later, let me know in the comments. Thanks. Let's get started. CDKates. Cool name. CDKates is a development kit for Kubernetes. It builds manifests from your code. Okay. So this is an example of something that I found that what you guys don't realize is I showcase tools, but usually what triggers the tool to show up on my radar is they had some release yesterday. So these things that I talk about are things that had activity in the previous the previous day to the previous week, depending on how much stuff I get into it. So anyway, CDKates. It's the cloud development kit for Kubernetes, and it's a framework that was built by AWS that helps you build applications using languages that you already know. Assuming that you know Python, JavaScript, or TypeScript. As long as you know those three, you're in the game. It outputs Kubernetes manifests that you can apply to a cluster, and it does so in a declarative, repeatable way. And they've got this little graphic down here. Oh, I'm not zoomed in. There we go. They've got this cool little animation here that shows like magic happening on the left. Well, actually, simplicity happening on the left and then magic happening on the right, where it takes object-oriented code and turns it into Kubernetes manifests. What's super about this is it makes it excellent for doing things in a GitOps way, where you have the code, the configuration, the instruction set that controls the manifests alongside the code for the application itself. You push all this into a Git repository, and it doesn't actually apply anything to the cluster. It just generates the YAML, and then you can apply it yourself. But it's going to always generate it the same way. One of the big complaints from developers about Kubernetes is about having to write YAML. I think that's everybody's complaint about Kubernetes. I mean, we're gonna complain, right? Because we're human beings, so we're never gonna be totally satisfied with everything. This might, and I say might, overcome some of that resistance because it turns the definition of the app into constructs and classes that the devs can pick up quickly. I think it's neat. honestly. I think anything that helps, it helps me do something faster, like to be able to generate what's showing up on the right from the little things that are showing up on the left is pretty cool. So anyway, this came from AWS. Yesterday they had the release that had some bug fixes, but it also adds an Elasticsearch example. And if you already use this, know that yesterday's release has a breaking change. So you will have to watch out for that. Samsahai, which somehow becomes S2H. Oh, I see, SSH, Samsahai. Samsahai does intelligent testing of dependencies in your microservices. So I love people who look at a problem and they look at the available solutions and they say, I think I can do this better. And then they just do it. Like they don't say, oh, somebody's already doing this, or oh, they don't let the details of the thing. Well, there's a saying that said, those who say it cannot be done should not get in the way of those who are doing it. It's attributed to somebody important, Ben Franklin or something like that. I don't know, but it's a cool saying, right? These guys had, so this is who? Agoda? They're like an Airbnb. They do hotel bookings or something like that. They do stuff. I showcase. They had a problem. Let's see if their blog article talks about it a little bit better. They've got an older blog from March. So they had a problem where they have these microservices architecture that had more than 20 services. And the way that they were handling updates is when they would update one of them, they would just try to make sure that everything was running the latest version of whatever. So they would update everything to latest, and they would try and ship this whole package, and something would break. And they'd have to spend all of this time digging around inside of the application to figure out which service doesn't work with what other service and why, and then they'd go and fix that, and they just got fed up with it. So they built this tool that does regression testing of the various services by, let's see, it's not here, it's in the blog. They have a cool little graphic. By basically saying, okay, this is the environment that we have, and this is the environment that we want. Let's individually test each of these components. So they start from the top of the queue, and they say, okay, Redis v2, it had an error, so let's move that back to Redis v1, and then let's test the other pieces. And as they come through things that work, they move them to an approved, watching the internet collapse, they move them to an approved stack, and then when they're through testing everything, they have a stack of apps that are fine and a smaller stack of apps that are not, and it reduces the number of things that they need to go and test and troubleshoot. This is not a tool that I myself would use because I don't have big microservices applications that I deploy, but any company who does probably has experienced this exact pain, and there's a solution for you. So they also had a release yesterday, and it was only a bug fix release, but they are on 1.5.7. Sometimes I look at these. I almost didn't include this because I'm like, well, isn't there another way to do this? But then I look at the release numbers. That's one of the criteria. And I'm like, okay, they're on 1.5.7. So this has been out for a while, and they've been developing it, and it's active, and it's in use in places, which means that people do get value from it. And that's good enough for me. The next one's fun. EKS. EKS has the world's tersest news content. It's like do 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 do. Remember the old news sound, like news was coming. Do 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 do. News of the day. EKS now available in Cape Town and Milan. Do 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 do. End of the news, and that's it. There you go. I know we have people who watch the show that are in South Africa. So if you've been using EKS, you can get it locally now. That's super cool. There's lots of AWS data centers in Europe, so all of you who are in Milan, great. You get, I don't know what the Milan accent is, but you get some EKS as well. Moving on, because there's nothing else to talk about there. Before I talk about this, let's actually jump over to the chat and see what people are saying. I'm using my pencil today because I'm using my iPad Pro and it keeps turning off. Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias, Ariel. Sebastian, buenos dias. Nuno, oh noes. Marcel, guten Morgen. Peter, hey. Justin, hey. All right, so Nuno says, I think the format and the content is really nice. And Sebastian says, me too. It forces us to go and check for the topics that I talk about. I started putting timestamps in the video and then tweeting the individual ones. I think that's helping people find the specific little 3 minutes that I talk about the thing that they care about. So it's trying to make this available in a format. Okay, so everybody basically says that they like the format. All right, so I'll keep doing what I'm doing then. If I start to go sideways, then, let me know. I watched the video yesterday, and I'm really trying to get this internet thing fixed. The company that I told you about who says that ping and traceroute will leak proprietary secret information have since stopped responding to our emails, which leads me to believe that they don't actually have the bandwidth to sustain the size pipe that they were trying to sell me. I love when you call people out on stuff and you're like, hey, let's, trust but verify. And they're like, no. And they get so offended and they got something to hide. All right, back to Adrian digresses and starts ranting about stuff. Paris in Bmore is a Twitter user, and she started a thread asking for resources to learn Kubernetes online. I chimed in talking about my weekly Kubernetes and Rancher intro course, which you can find on, it's not a course, it's a class. I do it every week, and they're really funny. So the ones that I like, everyone gets posted to YouTube, but most of them are unlisted, but that's so that the people who attend can get the video. But then the ones that I like last week's, I actually make public. So if you go to the Rancher YouTube channel, you can find those. Alex talked about his ketchup.dev resources that he has online. And then other people started to chime in with other stuff. So Jerome Patazzo's content ended up there. Kube Academy from VMware. And there's Jerome right there. And then more, KubeCloud's course on the CKA. And the thread is continuing to receive updates. And so if there are, there's Udemy classes, edX classes, Brett Fisher's classes are in here. There's deep dives, there's KubeCon talks, there's books. Her only request was vendor neutral or vanilla case. If you have anything that you can recommend, please go here and add it to the list and then retweet it so that other people who are looking for resources can find this. And let's froth and churn and make a bunch of noise for as long as Twitter can remember that we exist. There's a bunch more stuff since yesterday. Yeah. IBM Cloud. I get the heebie-jeebies about things like VMware's Kube Academy. It's like, how vendor neutral do you really think it is? IBM Cloud's I didn't recommend the Rancher Academy because that's actually Rancher, but the Kubernetes thing that I do is just Kubernetes and applies anywhere. Anyway, let's go fill in more content here. We often talk about Helm, the package manager for Kubernetes. Where's my coffee? I haven't had any coffee this morning. All right, so for a lot of people, Helm is just a command that they run. And, it's like Helm install blah, and then you get blah. But how does it actually work? Oh, magic. The box. Learn the secrets and realize that they're not that exciting. So there's a chart, and it says to do some stuff. But how many of you actually know how to build? Well, okay, so think about it this way. How many of you know how to build something with RPM or dpackage versus the number of people that just do yum install or apt-get install, whatever? Kind of the same thing. But Andrew Prusky, gentleman who wrote this blog, DBA from the cold, he took the time to write up an overview from the perspective of a person deploying the application, instead of most content, which is from the perspective of the person who's packaging the application. But he doesn't leave that out either. So he starts out by showing just how easy it is to create a Helm chart and then convert bits of it to use template variables. Scroll down here. This is a super comprehensive article. Where's got template stuff? Oh my gosh, I thought it was way higher than that. I probably skipped it. Anyway, he shows then how to do so he has you build a simple Helm chart so that you can then change something and upgrade it. I'm annoyed. I can't find my templates. There we go. Templates. Close the loop. Not OCD over here at all, I promise. So he has you deploy a chart, and then he has you do an upgrade so that he can show you what happens with the replica sets and how, there we go, and how Helm is able to do rollbacks. But then he has you go ahead and nuke one of those replica sets and shows you that you can't roll back now with kubectl. Kubernetes doesn't know how to do it, but Helm still does. And that's the point of the article is, how does Helm know this? He was like, how does Helm know this? He's somebody who had a situation, he was like, well, how the heck does this work? I'm going to go figure it out. And it's an unusual trait in humans. And it's the trait that I love above all, is the people who are like, let's figure this out. There's a thing. If you want to increase your awareness of the world, first step in, well, I guess I'm becoming more aware, but that's obvious. There's a thing that I do that I learned years and years and years ago from Tom Brown, who runs the Tracker School in New Jersey. And that's, for every single thing that I encounter in my life, I ask 3 questions. What is this? Why is it here? And what can I learn from it? These aren't the same 3 questions like from the Holy Grail. The Monty Python quest for the Holy Grail. What is your quest? So, what is this? Why is it here? And what can I learn from it? What this does is teach the brain to question reality. Not like, is it real or is it not real? But to just not accept by default what we're given. And once the brain starts to do that, then the world becomes a magical place to explore. A place that has good things and bad things and trolls and princesses and, I don't know, use whatever model you want. That's what gets people to write articles like this. He didn't have to write an article like this. He answered the question and he had his answer. But then he wanted to share this with everybody else, and then I found it, and now I'm here to share it with you. I'm not going to tell you the answer, though. You're going to have to go and read his article, which is long, but it's not that long of a read. Great intro to Helm. Great intro into that particular feature of Helm that allows the magic to happen. Open Policy Agent. Okay, I didn't reload my tabs before the show. Open Policy Agent is not the only solution for policy enforcement. We had Kyverno on here a week ago, but it's the current darling of the cloud-native landscape. So people are using it instead of pod security policies in their clusters. Ranchers building support for it directly into the product. Like, if you haven't looked at OPA yet, this is something to keep on your radar. But if you go to the OPA site, it dives immediately into, let's get busy. And it assumes that you already know what OPA is and that you've already made a decision that you want to use it. And maybe you're not there yet. But you could click around on this site for a while and not really find a high-level intro into OPA. So check out this article. It's on InfoWorld. It's written by one of the co-founders of the OPA project. He's the current CTO of, what are they called, Styrofoam. He's the current CTO of Styra, who are the people that created OPA. And this is a non-technical, like, there's no code, there's no examples, there's no nothing, but it's a non-technical overview of what OPA is, why it matters, the benefits that it provides, to like, why you may want, not why you do want, why you may want to put this in place in your environment, even if you already have another tool already there that's doing part of it. I didn't realize until I read this last night just how comprehensive OPA is and just how many places in the stack it can go. If you deal with anybody like a boss who maybe is responsible for making decisions but doesn't necessarily have the technical chops, and that's always a struggle. Like, we need to protect those people, we need to empower them to make informed decisions, but we need to not make them feel any negative emotions for not being able to compete with the people who have skills to actually do the work. This would be the kind of article that you can share with them that will help them understand and feel good about the knowledge that they've gained. The chat's going on. Yes, Nuno says we can keep spamming the chat and see when Adrian loses track. It's going to happen every so often. It's like right here on the iPad Pro. I should take a picture of my setup and share it with you guys. It's kind of crazy. It's like a control station on the Starship. Chaim, hello from Israel. Having coffee at 2 p.m. Very nice. Nuno says compare it with Porter for cloud native application bundles. Isn't Porter the solution that's like Metal LB? That's like a service load balancer for bare metal? Hey, Sebastian passed the CRO level 1 course of my Rancher Academy yesterday. Congratulations, Sebastian. That's awesome. Be sure to post your certificate on LinkedIn and hit me up on the user Slack and tell me where it is so I can, give you a cheer. That's great. Okay, so porter.sh is different from the other Porter. Okay, let me make a note and I'll check that out. Adrian makes a note. See? Note. No! This one. This README was written by the same people who writes the AWS news articles. What is it? It's cluster autoscaler. Why do you need it? If you don't know, you don't need it. Cluster autoscaler for ARM. So obvious, it doesn't need a README. I'm not really sure that this is so special because I went and looked at the Docker file and basically it's just a multi-arch build for a cluster autoscaler, but hey, it's on ARM. Hooray. We had Kube-score on the show. Oh, when did we have them? We had them in episode 11. It does static analysis of Kubernetes resources, and it gives a rating for how well they adhere to best practices or what, if anything, needs to change. Yesterday, they released 1.8.0, and this enables a new flag for Kubernetes version. So you can actually run your analysis of the manifests against recommendations for a specific version of Kubernetes. There's things that change between versions. There's things that might have been the right way to do it in 1.14 or whatever, but you need to do it differently in 1.18. Well, now you can tell it what you're looking at, and it will adjust accordingly. They made some other changes to how Ingress works because that moved a while ago, and I don't know why they didn't update it until now, but hey, better late than never. They also support HPA v2 beta 1 and v2 beta 2. Previously, they only supported 1. We are actually doing really good on time today. Chat, I only have the tool of the day left. Like a low-key, chillaxing kind of day. Every night when I'm putting these things together, I worry just a little bit that if I don't have enough content for tomorrow, what am I going to do? I would just do a shorter show. Or I would spend more time, or maybe, I really liked what they were doing with CDKs, and I wanted to have a little demo of that. It'd be nice to have, a demo of the tool of the day, or something. There's a demo of Porter with K3D. Oh, Devin is a maintainer at Raspbernetes. No kidding. That's cool. Thanks for, I don't know what you had to do with this, if anything, but thanks. Can we get some more data in the README? Please. That's cool. I'm glad you're on the show. Okay. Tool of the day. Oh, I don't even have the thing on. I'm pointing at the screen. Tool of the day. Kube-image-prefetch. I learned from Scour, and there was another tool that we had on the show that did a similar kind of thing on the same day. And I learned that the recommended best practice is to use an image pull policy of always in your manifests. And I don't do that. I use an image pull policy of if not present, because I have a caching server here in the house, because I live really far away from anything that has anything, and it takes honestly, like for me to build an RKE cluster, it takes like almost an hour for it to just download the images. So when I'm teaching people how to do stuff, having a class or whatever, like I can't afford to do that. So I just use if not present. I don't know. I read about why they want an image pool policy of always. I get it. I don't know if it's necessarily a best practice. But then this tool, you probably already read on the screen as I just talk about stuff that's unrelated. If you use the always policy, then you can avoid the hit of downloading images when pods are first scheduled to a node by using this tool, which watches, it says it watches deployments. I'm not sure if it only watches deployments, or I guess stateful daemon set, you wouldn't have the problem. Stateful set, stuff probably shouldn't be moving around. I don't know. But it certainly watches deployments. And as they are changed, removed, added, whatever, it runs a daemon set on all of the nodes that prefetches the image. So if a pod gets rescheduled, the image is already there. And then if you're using image pool policy of always, then you're fine, because the node will just check that it already has the image, and that traffic is actually very small. I don't know why I can't say those words. Talking is so hard. So I found this and thought it would be a nice tool of the day. Oh, and look at that. They released multi-arch image support. You can run this basically everywhere. That's all I have for today. Devin says, we cross-compile ARM and ARM64 apps that don't yet support those architectures. If you have ARM devices, check it out. Yeah, definitely check it out. No other things going on in the chat, so I guess we'll just wrap it up. Oh, my teleprompter doesn't work anymore. I have, like, you probably have noticed that I have the same intro and the same outro. Oh, there it goes. It's because I actually have it on a teleprompter that's sitting right here in front of the camera so that I can read it. All right, so that's all for today. Giving up all of my secrets. I will post all the links in the video description and the Git repo as soon as the show ends. Actually, I have all of that prepared already. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll get a notification when that happens. If you have something you'd like me to consider for the show, hit me up and let me know. My contact details are in the video description, or you can tweet with the CNCN hashtag and I will pick it up. If I mentioned a tool that you use, tell me in the comments. And of course, if you liked what you saw today, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to click the little bell to get notifications when the next show starts. I'll be here every weekday as long as there's something to talk about, something to laugh about, as long as people join the chat, as long as you guys appreciate and find value in what I'm doing. I'll be here to do it. So thank you all for joining. Keep learning. I'll see you in the next show. Bye, 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 bye.